Hello and welcome to this, the final part of the PC rehousing series. We're just doing some more wiring just before we carry on. This is the power supply for the optical drives, and you may be wondering why I'm putting it through this slot. It's simply because the cable isn't quite long enough to go through the grommet onto the drive, so it's stretching it. I don't like stretching the wiring, usually ends up damaging something, so I'm just putting it through here so it's a bit more neat and tidy and actually reaches the drives without having to stretch the cable. Now it doesn't mean I can't use the Fontex tie down, so I'm going to use some stick-on tie downs that I've got. These ones you just unclip and put the wiring through. These particular ones are a bit too big, so let me get the smaller versions. These ones, as you see, just stick on there, so I'll just take the tape off and clip the clip and put it over the wire. Then with a bit of firm pressure just stick it to the case. It makes for a much neater and tidier form of tying down than using those horrible plastic ties that you get, or even worse, the metal wire ones. So I'll just put the second one down a bit lower and clip the clips on. Does mean, of course, I can undo it quite easily by pulling the clips up and moving the wire about if I need to later on. Just clip them in place and make sure they're nice and tight. Get rid of the paper. Now these are the stick-ons that I told you about for mounting the hard drive. You've already seen me use them for the SSDs. These are full-size strips. I haven't cut these down as they're going to be needed not only to keep the hard drive in place, but also to absorb any vibration and stop any noise through the case. So I'll just stick these in place, as I did with the SSDs. I'll put the top piece on, pull the tape off, and then attach the hard drive directly to them. Now I'm not going to stick the underside, of course, because apart from the fact that it's got electronics on it, it's not got a very good area for sticking, so I'll stick the top. The hard drive would be upside down, but that doesn't really make much difference. And indeed the cool air going over the circuit board might help it a little. Thread the SATA cable through. And then we need the power cable, which I'll bring through. On the bottom here. Just get it the right way around to match up with the fit-in on the hard drive itself. As I said in the last video, one of the beauties of the common rail power supply system is that it doesn't matter, as long as the wiring, the cabling can actually handle the amperage and the power going through them. You don't need separate cables for everything. I'm sure there's somebody out there who'll argue with me on that, but I think the effect would be negligible. And indeed I haven't seen any effect in the past, and I've had this set up this way since I built the PC. So that's in place. Plug in the SATA. And this drive is used as my backup drive. Basically, it stores all the documents, photographs, videos, etc. It's a 2 terabyte drive. And if you're wondering if this is the only drive I have, no, I also have a NAS which I back up to, and a third portable which I keep off site. So now we're going to go back and start working aside again. We're going to plug in the SATA cables here, which because of the GPU makes life a little bit awkward, as the SATA connections are almost directly underneath the back of the graphics card. As ever, we're going to pull the excess wire through because we don't want it in the front of the case, when we can tuck it neatly in the back of the case. I'll do a bit of more tidying up later and sort things out. As you can see, the SSDs are nice and firmly stuck on now. So it's time for the optical drives. These are the ones that caused trouble in the previous build, and you can simply just slide them in until they click in place, like that. And if you want to take them out, just press down and slide them out. So that's the DVD writer and the Blu-ray player. And as always, I screw them in also simply because it stops them moving about when you press in the buttons or press in the front of the case, and it stops vibration also, and it does help if I put the screw into the right slot here. It just holds that little bit firmer to stop vibration and the movement. And the space, as you can see, is immense compared to the old case. It's just unbelievably much better. I've got to say, this Fantex case is probably one of my best purchases ever. Excellent value for money, extremely well built, and the amount of space that you have inside is just incredible. I can't think I've looked at many cases, and apart from cases costing £200 plus, I've yet to see a case that matches this. So on with the power cables. As always, I have difficulty plugging them in. And then the two SATA cables from the optical drives. Again, I'll take these through the grommet and into the back of the case, and then down to the SATA connectors on the motherboard. Now there are two different types here, as you can see. One has a right angle and one is a straight. Now we can't really put the right angle in the top, so the right angle goes in the lower drive, and then we use a straight connection for the top drive, and that leaves me with one spare. So again, then these go through the grommet. Now we don't want to take these all the way down to the bottom, because simply the connections on the motherboard are about halfway down. so we only need to take these about halfway down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide them through the grommet here, which is more or less exactly where the inputs are on the motherboard. And then another fiddly bit as we get underneath the graphics card again. As you can see, there's not a lot of room there to get these SATA cables plugged in. If the fan wasn't in the way, I suppose I could have gone through the front, so I'm just going to have to move it through here. And make sure they're in firmly. Again, if it wasn't for the space I've got here, this would be almost impossible. I would have had to take the graphics card out completely to do this. So just tidy up again. We'll sort that out a little later when we do the tidying up of the wiring on the back. As you can see, the space now, there's no way at all that those optical drives could ever get anywhere near pressing that button. Must be about 3 or 4 inches of space between the motherboard and the optical drives. So we're just about nearing the end of the build now. Just a few little bits and pieces before we finish. Put the front cover back on. And those drives don't actually look too bad. I was expecting them to be stand out a bit more than that, but they seem to be quite nice actually. They match with the black and white of the case, so I may just keep them as they are. I'll just put the top cover on. And after a bit of tidying up with the wiring and putting the front and back on, we're now ready for the first boot to see if everything is still working as it should be. So here goes. And success. Now, at this point I'm not too happy, so I'm just going to pop out and pick up something a bit extra. But before I do that, of course, let's just take these plastic protection strips off. So I'll be back in a moment. And this is what I popped out for. As you see, when we press the button now, switch the power on might help. There we go. a few LEDs just to finish it off. I thought, well, if you've got this looking this good so far, why not show off the internals properly? And together with the blue LEDs on the fans at the top, I think it looks quite good. I think I should name it now, shouldn't I, the build? Perhaps. How's about the Blue Angel? Thank you for watching, and I hope you join me in my future videos.